Hi everyone, it's me Rebecca, the Colorful Booknester over here at Rivercrest Cottage, and it's that time of year. We just had a huge snow event. We probably had 12 to 18 inches here, and it's beautiful and bright and crisp, and we have a beautiful blue sky today, but it's that end of year December feeling of I need to be looking at goals. I need to be thinking about what do I want to do in 2020. And it's also, end of year wrap-ups, favorite books of 2019 videos, and of course, reading goal videos. So I've never done one of these before, and I decided this year that I kind of had a really good reason to sit down and think about writing out a goal regarding my reading, and I thought I would share with you what I'm going to be doing. So first of all, when creating goals, and that's why I wanted to talk about this with you guys, when you're creating goals, you need to be very, very focused. And as a speech-language pathologist, we are taught how to write goals for our students. And we're always told that those goals need to be achievable within 1 year. It's a 12-month cycle as far as, but in this case, we'll say for 2020, it needs to be achievable. And number two, you then also make objectives underneath it that support you making that goal. So what things do you need to do? How do you break it down to achieve that goal? And it makes a lot of sense. And if you apply this to a lot of different places, it makes it makes your focus a little bit more to the point. It also helps you realize, and this is how I'm going to do it, because we can set unrealistic goals that could set us up for failure just as easily as we can set up, well, actually easier, I think, as we can set up for goals that we're going to be able to achieve. So this is a set of goals that I want to achieve, but it's also a plan on how to achieve those. So here's a little backstory. The whole reason that I'm even doing this is because in January 2019, we had a flood down in our basement. At the time, there was a lot of my books that was down there for various reasons, but largely because I had not switched out the Christmas decorations yet. And so when I decorate, a lot of my books come down so that I can decorate. And also I cleared out a whole bookcase or a couple bookcases so that my mother would have some place to put her clothes and stuff whenever she came to stay with us. She was with us for almost a month last year. So those books all went downstairs. The flood happened. We got almost probably 2.5 feet of water within our basement. So we also had books still down there that I had not brought upstairs from when we moved, because I didn't have space for them and I didn't know what I was going to really do. And I thought, summer of 2019, I'll go through them. I'll figure out where to put them. Well, needless to say, we had to get all those books out of there. They had all swollen up to amazing sizes. Think of any Harry Potter after Chamber of Secrets expanding out. And the weight, it was cold. We had snow and ice. So we literally were throwing books into wheelbarrows and then taking them over to the door. And because the basement door is about 6 feet or so, probably, well, it's at least 6 feet, if not deeper, from the top of the level of the ground, we then threw the books out. Like I was shot putting books out. My arms were so exhausted. Onto like a piece of canvas or plastic, and then we would drag it across the snow and then throw it into this very large dumpster and we filled it. Now it wasn't only just books, but I would say the majority of it was. All of that physical work, the emotions as you saw books that you had emotional ties go by, to also frustration and kind of anger at myself. There was embarrassment of how the heck did I end up with all these books? But it was a huge realization of how many of those books that I ended up having to throw away that I had never read. They had been moved multiple times. I had packed them multiple times. They now were being stored downstairs. And some of them are 5, 6, 10 years old, and I'd never read them. And my husband was fantastic about it, but it was exhausting. And it was such a waste, such an incredible waste. And it really made me start thinking, what can I do differently about my book buying habits? You know, I love books. I'm a Colorful Booknester. I want books to be in my home, but I'm never going to have a giant library, and that's okay. And I needed to think a little bit differently. So throughout the year, I really reduced the amount of books that I bought. I only had a couple little fun moments, but I really wanted this year to focus on it, because the biggest thing that I saw was that whole aspect of unread books, and it just keeps going through my head. So with that in mind, my reading goals have nothing to do with reading more. Well, it does a little, but not. It's not about reading a certain genre more, from a certain type of author more, or participating in more reading challenges, or finding even more time to read. What my reading goal is, the ultimate, my annual reading goal, is to reduce the number of unread books that I own. And once I set that and realized that's really was what the root of the issue was, this then set me up to start figuring out, how am I going to achieve that? And that's what you do with a goal. You now say, how do I achieve that? That's my goal, but how am I going to make that happen? And so I kind of started going through and trying to figure out. So there are 3 places that I have books that I've purchased. I have them on my physical bookshelf, such as, that's right over there. I have them on my Kindle. Talk about out of sight, out of mind. And I have them on my Audible book collection as well. And so what I'm going to do is focus on those 3 areas, because that's where my purchased books are. That's where the books that I own. And if I start focusing on those, how am I going to get through them? Well, I have a series of videos coming up which will talk about each one of these ideas. But the first idea is I have created a way to make it fun for me, because it needs to be, and fun for me to talk about a TBR without feeling pressured about that TBR and making reading not so fun. But it's still focused on my bookshelves. When given to my own devices, I go to my bookshelves, and you know, I am a bit of a seasonal reader or whatever, but I very rarely really make myself look at those books and go, why do I not pick up a certain book? You know, why do I always leave it and say, oh, I'll read it later? So hopefully what I'm going to be doing is a monthly tic-tac-toe, which relates to my physical bookshelves, the physical books that I own. And I'm hoping that through that process, which I will talk about in greater depth, that's a possibility of 3 books that I will complete each month. There might be more that actually come off of my bookshelf. But the ultimate end is that it's going to be read, it's going to be DNF'd and donated, or just donated. And I'm hoping that focus is going to be helpful. The second one is to reduce those Kindle books and those Audible books. And in those, I'm going to make a quarterly bingo. Now, I love my bingos. I've been doing them for years now. And typically I do them seasonally is what I say. But I just decided we'll do them quarterly. It's just easier. And that means that I have 3 months to complete a bingo. Now, a bingo is larger than a tic-tac-toe. Tic-tac-toe, I might be able to achieve with only 3 books. A bingo, I need typically 5. So I'm going to have those bingos really focusing on my Kindle books and on my Audible books. So between those 2, I have 3 months to try to get through those and start working on those as well. So there's more of that to come to kind of tell you how I'm doing that. So I have 2 ideas going forward of how I'm going to choose my books and what books I'm choosing from. So if I get this whittled down, if I start doing this, I also have to make sure I'm not buying more than I'm getting off my shelf. So just because I read 3 doesn't mean I go out and buy 3. I really want to whittle down those unread books on my TBR. I would love eventually to have like maybe 10 books unread on my physical bookshelves at any time. 5 books on Kindle maybe, just so that I always have options, but those would be numbers I'd like to get down to. So one of the ways that I'm going to start doing this and be focusing and trying to not bring in more books than I'm reading is 2 things. So one of them is using my Kindle and samples. So Kindle is really cool because Kindle allows for you to send samples from books. And these samples are, sometimes almost a full first chapter. So rather than standing in a bookshop, which I don't go to very often, or just reading a synopsis, you can actually read the book and see if the author's style, if it's engaging, did I get excited about it? Did I get to the end of the sample and go, whoa, where's the rest of the book? I got to finish this. What did I feel about it? So being more aware and being more discernible about what books I'm going to purchase or bring into the house in some form. So that's one. I'm going to start using my samples. So if you guys out there give me a great suggestion, which I get from BookTube all the time, I'm going to go to Amazon and I'm going to send a sample if it's available. And most people that are recommending those books, there is a sample via Kindle. I'm going to send that to myself. And then when I'm ready to start looking at a new book, maybe it is as a reward or something, I can read that sample and see if I still really want it versus going and buying it and having it sit on the shelf. Another thing I'm going to be doing, and again, this is a part of that planning series that I was telling you about, I am going to be doing a reading or a book balance sheet. So that is, I'm really excited about because that is tracking how many books I'm reading, getting off of my shelves, and how many I'm bringing into the house. So if I'm keeping track of that throughout the year, it's something for me to refer to. It kind of keeps in perspective what I'm purchasing. So again, increasing that awareness. And by increasing the awareness, the third part of objective or goal that I want is to become more mindful of the number of physical purchases and how I obtain new books. By new books mean new to me, okay? And so there's a lot of ways I can do this. And here would be the ways to make sure that I'm not adding to those numbers ridiculously. Number one, use my library. And I think there's another reason why reading my own shelves is so important to me right now, because I would like to be able to use my libraries. I have a wonderful library system. I have an adorable little library I could go to. And I'd really like to start going to that. I also have, even there, I have used bookstores. So the library has a used bookstore that they have open for about 4 or 5 months out of the year. I also have a great local bookshop that has used books that I could go peruse once I'm ready to start adding some back. And then there's also, and for the library, this includes Kindle books and this includes Audibles. I don't have to go purchase them all the time. And then on top of that, I recently have found another used kind of bookstores and place I could purchase used books at a really great price. And so far from what I've learned, sounds like it's a really good, positive, environmental impacting company, is Better World Books, which if I buy some books, like if I buy 3 books, they donate 3 books to people who wouldn't normally have books, and increasing literacy throughout the world. So all of these things come back to that main goal of reading my unread books that I own right now. So if I stay focused on that and then subsequently don't keep adding to the list through these other objectives, I think it could be a pretty darn good year. So I have tons of ideas of how to do this. I've started working in my, sorry for the sun, my 2020 planner, which I will be showing you soon. So look for those planner videos that will have spreads and things of how I'm going to be tracking my reading to support this one goal of reducing the number of unread books on my physical shelf, because that is my big goal. And that's the thing that you have to do. Figure out that big important goal, and then how are you going to support it? What things are you going to change? What things are you going to add? What things can you be in control of? How do you work with yourself to support achieving that goal. So I'd love to hear if you guys have any goals. I'd love to know if you've got any reading goals or anything like this. I think it's a great time of year to be able to just sit and think about it, contemplate it. And you can start new goals at any time. It doesn't have to be in January, but it's just a lot of fun when you have a brand new planner and you want to fill it up, right? So keep turning those pages. I wish you the best of luck in the new year.